Hey everyone, I would just like to show you the steps involved in getting the assignment set up and running in Android Studio so you can go through the steps laid out in the specifications. So we begin by clicking the GitHub Classroom link. This will bring us to a page where we can accept the assignment. Once the assignment is accepted, it will create a copy of the repository, which is essentially a copy of the project, and place it within your own GitHub account. So you're going to have to make sure that you are, in fact, signed in. We can refresh the page here, and here we now see the link. So that took a second. And this is now the project. So this is a full-fledged Android project. And the next step is for us to get this project into Android Studio and take note of the name, CIS 5221 Spring 2024 Assignment 1, because we're going to use this name to search for the project. Now that we have added our project to GitHub or gotten our own copy of the project, the next step is to add that project to Android Studio. So the first thing I'm going to do is, once I open Android Studio, is I'm going to click Get Project from VCS. Now, unless you've already done so, you'll notice that we have three options here. The second option, GitHub, will have no accounts listed. So what we need to do is add our GitHub account. So this is presuming we've already gone through the steps of installing the Git client that was described in the project specifications. If you haven't already done that, you can just go ahead and do it now. It's possible. More recent versions of Android Studio will probably prompt you to install Git, at some point during its execution, but it's probably just easier and safer to set it up separately prior to trying to get and to use Git features in Android Studio. So I'm going to select GitHub, and now I'm being asked to log in. Now, login via GitHub is the most straightforward approach. It'll just pop up a browser window asking you for your username and password. And once you log in, they exchange information in the background. However, I, as well as many students over the past few years, have oftentimes had problems with this approach. Where attempting to log in, sometimes the system just hangs and nothing happens. You are welcome to try it, but just know that it may not give you the result you would like. So much so that I don't even try to use this feature anymore. I just use the token feature, which involves a couple more steps, but it always works. So I'm for reliability over convenience almost any day of the week. So I'm going to just click on Use Token, and that's going to bring me to this page where it asks me to paste a token for GitHub. In order to receive that token, I must first click on this Generate button. Clicking that will bring me to a page where I'm able to generate a token. So there are three things here, basically. First, the note, what I want to call this this token that I'm about to generate. So I can call it something like, this is perfect, Android Studio GitHub, let's call it just GitHub token, Spring 2024. And I'm also able to set the expiration date. Whatever you select as the expiration date is the point at which the token will expire, and you would be forced to create another token. So this is a security measure. You can set from 7 to 90 days, a custom amount of time, or no expiration. Selecting 90 days is probably safe for us, since after 90 days, you're probably going to be done with this course. But if you like to live on the edge, and for convenience, I tend to just select no expiration, just know that you need to be very careful, because anyone who has access to your machine, well then, will into perpetuity have access to your GitHub account, unless you come back to this page and delete the token. So that's the second piece. The next piece is the scopes. And as long as you got to this page via Android Studio, you do not need to touch any of these. So it's set everything that it needs to set. Do not enable or disable anything. Simply scroll to the bottom and hit Generate Token. Once I do that, I'm going to be presented with a token. Here it is. And I'm going to be given the ability to copy it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and make sure you copy it before you click any link and leave the page, because once you leave this page, you will not be able to see this token again. For example, here is a token I generated at some point previously. And as you can see, I can view the token and see what options it grants me access to, pretty much the same as the token I just created. But the token itself is not visible. So you need to make sure that whenever you generate a token, you copy it. And if you forget, it just means you have to generate a new token, right? It's really it's nothing at all. Just make sure you just recognize that you have one chance to copy this. Now that I've copied it, I'll go back to Android Studio and I'll paste the token and hit login. Once I do that, it logs me into Android Studio and I can now see all my projects. Now, in a perfect world, I'd be able to do a quick search for the project as I've named it. And here I can see my project and it has since disappeared. So for some reason, Android Studio sometimes gets very finicky when you try to simply type in the project. And as you see, I saw mine a moment ago, but now it's disappeared. So as much as I would love to just select the project from this list, I can't actually do that. It won't let me. Hopefully for you, it's a little more straightforward. But in this case, it's no big deal. All I'll do is I'll go back to my project page on the GitHub page itself. And I'll simply click this button, code, and I will copy the full Git URL. So I'll copy this Git URL, and then I'll go back to Android Studio, and I'll simply select the repository URL tab on the left. So instead of searching for the project name via GitHub, which again I would hope would have worked, but it didn't, I copied the URL from the page under the code option, and go back to Android Studio, go to repository URL, and just paste the URL there. Once I do that, I hit clone, and Android Studio will go ahead and download the project for me, open it, and then I'm ready to code. Getting some lovely warning messages here. Here it's telling me Microsoft Defender is going to slow things down for me. Do I want to have Android Studio add an exception? Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and do that. I'm just prompted to approve it, so I did that. And then I leave Android Studio to build the project for me. As long as you see this progress bar in the bottom right, your project is still being built, so just leave it alone, let it finish, and once it finishes, here on the left, I now have my access to my project, and I can work on my assignment per the specifications. All right, so that's the process. As you can see, a few hiccups along the way, but there are straightforward ways to work around them. All right, let me know if you have any questions.